support them. Mr. Speaker, we will have a transition, an energy transition here in Canada, which reduces our greenhouse gas footprint. Over the coming years, we've put in place a number of measures. I know $1.7 billion for electric vehicles over the coming years, charging infrastructure. Those are tangible measures that I am proud of to support in this budget. But at the same time, we know this transition to renewable energy will take time. It's happening, and we'll be there. We'll make sure those jobs that are created in the green transition are captured by Canadian workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job.
And that's good for this round. We're going to go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député de Cape Breton-Canso.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to commend the resilience of my constituent, Dina Edwards. Dina was diagnosed with a rare form of ovarian cancer just days after her daughter's second birthday in the fall of 2021. This type of cancer is called mucinous ovarian cancer, and it is also known, Mr. Speaker, as the silent killer. While battling the cancer in her own body, Dina picked up the fight for other women. With the goal of raising $5,000 to contribute to a $15,000 annual ovarian cancer research grant, Dina created a Facebook fundraising page and shared her story. This page, Mr. Speaker, raised over $38,000 in just a few weeks. But Dina is not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. Dina is now planning a walk and run this May 8th, which happens to be both Mother's Day and World Ovarian Cancer Day. This will be done to raise funds for ovarian cancer in our local community. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all of those in this House, I commend Dina for her strength, her leadership, and her commitment to bettering the lives for women in my community. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, on April the 11th, the hockey marathon for the kids took place in Chestermere, Alberta, breaking the Guinness World Record for the longest ice hockey game played, reaching 261 hours over 10.5 days. Each player took 4-hour shifts on the ice, persevering through all the injuries and fatigue, all to support kids fighting cancer. The hockey marathon started back in 2012 when 40 people took to the ice to raise funds for the Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation for Kids Cancer Research, all while breaking the world record by playing for 246 hours. Since 2012, the hockey marathon has raised over $3 million and also includes $1 million that were raised just this year. They continue to raise funds at hockeymarathon.com. Congratulations to all the players and the organizers for breaking yet another world record and for raising funds for this amazing cause. Special thanks to Leslie Plumley and my good friends Alex Halat and Satvir Singh Sahota, son of an amazing community leader that I personally respect, Rishpal Singh Sahota. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, April marks Sikh Heritage Month and Vaisakhi. This month I had the honor of joining Sikhs in my writing to celebrate Vaisakhi. My faith is very important to me, so I feel honored that the Sikh community taught me about their faith and allowed me to take part in their celebration on this important day. I was surrounded by members of our community who were dressed in beautiful attire while we also enjoyed delicious food. Celebrations like these are important for the entire community and country as it allows everyone to learn about different religions and celebrate religious festivities. Sikhs have made a tremendous contribution to Canada in law, healthcare, business, sports, politics, including many MPs here in our House of Commons and many other fields. I want to thank the Meet and Greet Seniors Club Mississauga, the Mississauga Seniors Cultural Association, and Sahara Senior Services for inviting me to be part of the Vaisakhi celebrations. Happy Sikh Heritage Month and Vaisakhi Thi Luk Luk Vadaiya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Longueuil-Saint-Hubert.
Monsieur le Président, le hockey est en deux.
Mr. Speaker, hockey is mourning the loss of the two most spectacular players Quebec has ever given it. Mike Bossy left us on April 15th, much too early. Without a doubt, the greatest goal scorer Quebec has ever produced. 5 seasons with over 60 goals, 9 consecutive seasons with over 50, a record that may never be broken. He was an absolutely great player and an absolutely endearing man. He marked the history of the New York Islanders and the entire NHL. Later on, as an analyst for TVA Sports, his comments were always full of humor and finesse, relevant and delicious. Endearing, funny, and on the mark in everything he said, Mike Bossy knew how to make us love his sport. All his opponents feared him, all his fans admired him, all of us loved him. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to extend my deepest condolences to his family and friends. Thank you for everything, Mike Bossy.
L'honorable député de Halifax West.
Monsieur le Président, le 12 avril.
Mr. Speaker, on April 12th, I was delighted to see the introduction of an important bill in the Nova Scotian Legislative Assembly. The MLA for Clare, Ronnie LeBlanc, introduced an Acadian and Francophone education bill, which would enact a separate and independent Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms Compliant School Act. As a parliamentarian and former Minister of Acadian Affairs and the Francophonie, I proudly support this. It was a privilege for me to contribute to the process that led to this historic moment. Congratulations to the Conseil scolaire acadien provincial and all those who advocated for separate legislation for education in French as a first language. Now is the time to act and protect and promote the French language and to anchor the Acadian and Francophone communities and their history into the fabric of the province. No excuses. Let's get it done.
The honourable member for Mission Mascouy Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, on April 7th, our province mourned the loss of a wonderful, community-minded man, Mr. Terry Raymond, a larger-than-life personality. My sincere condolences to his family, friends, and constituents. Terry was Electoral Area A Director, that's Boston Bar, North Bend, Canyon, Alpine, of the Fraser Valley Regional District. He was a true champion of rural British Columbia. From the time he was elected in 1996 until his untimely passing, Terry shared his interest and passion of the region's history. For decades, he gave his time contributing to many community organizations like the Yale Historical Society and the New Pathways to Gold Society. Terry had a deep appreciation of First Nations knowledge and was CAO of the Sitka Tradition Society and the Lands and Resource Manager of the Boston Bar First Nation. Last week, I had the pleasure of joining New Pathway to Gold Society directors in honor of Terry, and they shared that wherever he would go, he would share traditional Sitka medicine with him. He will be truly missed in our community. May you rest in peace, Terry.
The honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, this past Friday was Earth Day, and I'm proud to recognize how Guelph residents are stepping up to protect nature and to fight climate change. Organizations like Trees for Guelph, the Guelph Coalition for Active Transportation, the Guelph Hiking Trail Club, the Arboretum, the Rotary Club of Guelph, and Grand River Conservation have all helped to plant trees and, more broadly, to work to ensure that we are better stewards of our land. Speaker, these efforts have created refuges for wildlife, providing learning opportunities for our community's youth, and are contributing to fight against biodiversity losses. This work is critical if we're going to enjoy, future generations are going to enjoy our environment, the environment that Canada is known for around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I just want to remind members, to keep the noise down a little bit so that the members can get their statements out as easily as possible. The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister recently kicked off the post-budget tour in my riding of Hamilton Mountain by addressing an important issue that is top of mind for many of my constituents: the ability to afford a safe place to live. We met with Felicia, Peter, Alla, and Ahmed, and they told the Prime Minister firsthand about the struggles they faced as they've tried to find safe, affordable housing for their families. The Prime Minister even referred to the Hamilton housing market as stunningly out of reach for first-time homebuyers. But in Budget 2022, our government has a solid plan to make it easier for young Canadians to save for their first home, to provide financial support for multi-generational home renovations, and to double housing construction. We are taking significant steps to make life more affordable for people on Hamilton Mountain, like Felicia, Peter, Alla, and Ahmed, and for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Miramichi, Grand Lake.
What's Tom doing?
Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, March 27th, the Blackville Golden Eagles clinched the Provincial Boys High School title. The boys made the entire community proud in a way that's difficult to even put into words. To the players, coaches, school, parents, volunteers, and fans, congratulations for this standalone, inspiring, and unparalleled achievement in the history of your community and school. The 2022 BHS Golden Eagles are now enshrined in the record books as the only BHS team to ever win gold at provincials. The bond these players will share is forever, and nobody can ever take it from them. I believe Thomas Dunn watched over this team. They are simply the best team in the history of Blackville School. Please join me in congratulating the 2022 Blackville High School Golden Eagles hockey team on their historic accomplishment.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On April 24th, Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day, we joined Armenian communities in Canada and around the world to remember those who were killed and those who suffered immeasurably from the senseless violence during the genocide. We also honor the current generation of Armenians who continue to live with the pain, trauma, and loss from this tragedy, and continue to work tirelessly to bring awareness and seek recognition from all countries. In these uncertain times, Mr. Speaker, we must reaffirm our commitment to protecting the fundamental human rights and dignity of everyone in Canada and around the world. We must stand against hate, violence, and bigotry. We owe this to the victims and survivors of these unconscionable acts. I encourage all members in this House and all Canadians to stand together as we proclaim never again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I again want to remind folks that during statements by members, it's respectful to, of course, listen to them and allow these great statements from our members. The honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of my private member's Bill C-240, the Supporting Canadian Charities Act. The pandemic has inflicted tremendous losses on charities and their ability to provide much-needed services to Canadians. The situation is bleak. Canada's 85,000 registered charities have lost billions of dollars during the pandemic at a time when its services are needed more than ever. Charities are now facing demands for their programs and services that currently exceed their capacity to deliver. Bill C-240 can help solve this problem by amending the Income Tax Act to waive the capital gains tax on the proceeds from the arm's length sale of privately owned shares or real estate when those proceeds are donated directly to a charity. This simple change to the Income Tax Act will raise over $1 billion for charities over the next 5 years. Mr. Speaker, when charities are hurting, people are hurting. Let's do something about it. I ask every member to support this bill. Working together, we can get the charitable sector back on its feet and Canadians back on theirs.
The honourable member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, 500 days ago today, I stood in this House and I asked for the support of all colleagues to bring 988, a simple, easy-to-remember, 3-digit national suicide prevention hotline to Canada. That date was December 11th of 2020. On this day, parliamentarians of all stripes stood together and supported bringing 988 to Canada. Collectively, we gave Canadians struggling with mental health issues hope. 500 days later, Canadians still do not have access to a 3-digit national suicide prevention hotline. Mental health organizations, telecom providers, and over 400 municipalities from across the country support bringing 988 to Canada. They understand the importance of this initiative. They know it will save lives. This government could have and should have acted immediately after this motion passed 500 days ago, yet they failed to do so. Mr. Speaker, hope is not enough. When minutes count, 500 days of delay is totally unacceptable. Let's get this done. Let's bring 988 to Canada once and for all.
Hear, hear. L'honorable député de Argenteuil, la Petite Nation.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to pay tribute to a great man who has just left us, Guy Lafleur, from Thurso, my riding of Argenteuil, la Petite Nation. Our national figure, our blonde demon, always ready to get involved in the community. On the ice, he had a unique style. His speed, his skill, his explosiveness, his blazing shots, and his instinct for scoring were incredible. They made me dream throughout my entire youth. What a great memory to come and play hockey at the Thurso Arena where Guy played when he was young. According to one story, as a child, he loved hockey so much that he would sleep with his equipment on so he could get on the ice as soon as he woke up. He would come and practice his favorite sport before anyone else. on behalf of all Canadians, on behalf of all those like me who were influenced in our youth and throughout our lives by their idol, we offer our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and many fans of Guy Lafleur. My thoughts are with all those who mourn this great loss in Quebec, across Canada, and around the world. Guy, our number 10, we will miss you.
The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to two great Canadians, two great athletes, Mr. Mike Bossy and Guy Lafleur. Every time they hit the ice, it made you feel that you weren't watching a game, that there was something magical, something mystical about hockey. And I remember as kids in the schoolyard, when we'd conjure the names of the great ones to try and gather their spirit, we'd shout out their names like Cornwallis, Savard, Keon, Mahovlich, but anyone who got to be Bossy or Lafleur was someone special. In my 20s, I fell in love with the young Edmonton Oilers, and God, I hated the Islanders. They were like this impenetrable wall. I hated them, but Mike Bossy, I couldn't help but admire. And Guy Lafleur, I will say as a lifelong Leaf fan, every time Montreal beat Toronto, it was okay as long as Guy Lafleur was on the ice. Mr. Speaker, hockey in some ways in sports has become the domain of the super rich, and it sometimes seems megalomaniacal. But these two showed us that at the heart of the game is something very special, something that any kid can aspire to. They are with the Angels today. To Guy Lafleur and Mike Bossy, thank you.
L'honorable député de La Prairie.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai eu la chance dans ma vie de...
Mr. Speaker, I was lucky enough to play with Guy Lafleur on one of his many Legends tours. Guy Lafleur, the Blonde Demon. Guy Lafleur, number 10. Our Guy Lafleur. The last of the Mohicans, as I would tell him. He was the most extraordinary of ordinary guys. Someone who doesn't think he's someone else. Someone like you and me. But who would have every reason to get a swelled head. According to Pierre Foglia, he was the finest, the least screwed up by glory. That's the mark of our heroes in Quebec. The Maurice Richards, the Jean Béliveaux, the Guy Lafleurs, humble men in whom we could recognize ourselves. And I'm telling you, we recognized ourselves in him. All the children of my generation shouted, and Guy Lafleur scars when they got their puck in. Adored, admired, and above all, loved by Quebecers, Guy Lafleur was our idol. He was our last hero, the last of the Mohicans. To his family and to all of Quebec, I offer my most sincere condolences. And for one last time, Guy, Guy, Guy.
L'honorable député de Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord.
Monsieur le Président, vendredi passé.
Mr. Speaker, last Friday, Quebec and all of Canada mourned Guy Lafleur. His performances in the rink were spectacular. 6 seasons with over 50 goals. 4 consecutive wins for the Stanley Cup, and he accumulated many honors. Crowds went wild over him. Fans were right to place their hopes in Guy. He was extraordinary throughout his whole life. He also gave back to his community, to his fans, to the public. They were his priority. The impact that he had in Quebec is impossible to describe. It can only be lived. Guy was an exceptional man. I want to offer my most sincere condolences to the from his mother, Pierrette, his sister Lise, Lucie, Suzanne, and Giselle, and his sons Martin and Marc. Guy Lafleur left us, but the memories we have of him have never been so alive. Rest in peace, Guy.
L'honorable député de Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Westmount.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Canadian astronaut Bjarne Tryggvason died on the 5th of April. He was a dear friend of mine for 38 years. He was the smartest engineer I ever met. He actually understood fluid dynamics and everything there was to know about how a plane flies. He was an accomplished pilot who taught me to fly and took me into the sky to do acrobatics until I was so disoriented I begged him to stop. Bjarni was very proud of his Icelandic roots. He was one of the original 6 Canadian astronauts chosen in 1983. He flew aboard the space shuttle on mission STS-85 and successfully tested a device he and his team had designed, a vibration isolation mount that allowed the closest thing to pure weightlessness, and it's still used today. Les astronautes canadiens se sont réunis pour un...
Canadian astronauts met for dinner last month, and Bjarni was there. He told us about all his new projects. 2 weeks later, his unexpected death left us in mourning. Bjarni Tryggvason made a significant contribution to the Canadian space program. Please join me in celebrating his life and his contribution to our country. Thank you.
Oral questions. Question orale.
The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, over the past 15 days, Conservatives across the country have listened to what Canadians have to say. Inflation at 6.7% drives up grocery prices, house prices, rents, and gasoline, which taxes Canadians more and more. Ministers have spent a fortune promoting this Liberal NDP budget, which will only put future generations into further debt. Why is this Prime Minister so out of touch with reality in Canada that he's doing nothing to help Canadian workers cope with this crisis? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand that inflation is a global phenomenon. And here's a few figures that prove it. The last inflation figure in Canada was 6.7%. In the U.S., it is 8.7%. And in the Eurozone, it is 7.3%. This is because of COVID and because of Vladimir Putin. Canadians understand that. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Canadians understand, Mr. Speaker, that this government is deconnected with reality. They want to blame others rather than taking the responsibility and helping Canadians. That's the reality. But today, Mr. Speaker, in an article in the Globe and Mail, the RCMP considered laying a fraud charge against the Liberal Prime Minister. A fraud charge related to the free travel that his family and him accepted to a private island. My question is simple. Can the Prime Minister accept that there are two systems of justice in this country, one that applies to everyone and one that does not apply to the Prime Minister?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative Party is unfortunately mistaken. This affair was taken care of years ago in December 2017, and when the Commissioner for Ethics published his report, the Conservative Party said that the Prime Minister answered appropriately. Thank you.
We're not going to.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, in this affair, there's a lack of judgment from the Prime Minister that was shown in the ethics report, and this was on several occasions. The RCMP thought of laying a fraud charge, but it didn't do so because they didn't think current law would allow it. The only person who can prevent the Prime Minister from accepting a gift is himself, but he can't be above the law. How many times did meetings take place between the Prime Minister and the RCMP, and when was the last meeting? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the member across the way knows full well that this situation ended 5 years ago. And there was a report from the Ethics Commissioner, and the Prime Minister clearly replied to this situation, responded. We have a situation that is very serious now, here in Canada and across the world. There are many questions and issues that are so important today, and I think it's a good idea to focus on them and ask questions.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about the RCMP here, not the Ethics Commissioner. Newly released documents from the RCMP reveal there may be reasonable grounds to believe that the Prime Minister committed the offence of fraud on the government contrary to Section 121(1)(c) of the Criminal Code. Now, this was after the Prime Minister was found guilty of accepting luxurious Bahamian vacations worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Mounties didn't proceed with charging the Prime Minister because the Prime Minister may have granted himself a get-out-of-jail-free card. So did the Prime Minister give himself the power to break the law?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, there was 5 years ago a report that was done by the Ethics Commissioner. That report made all of the matters clear. The Prime Minister responded appropriately. But again, Mr. Speaker, I will say I understand that the party opposite wants to drag in partisan politics and play games. But I would say there are a lot of pressing issues facing this country. We just had a budget table that takes critical action on housing and Indigenous reconciliation and the environment. And I would think those are important questions to be asking about, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
You can ask when you're in office.
I know we've been away for a couple weeks and we want to talk to each other, but let's try to keep down and respect the questions and the answers here at the same time. Here's where I'm going to put people on notice at this point. Just let's keep it down so we can get the questions and great questions, great answers. The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, I'd love to hear from the Prime Minister on this. His silence is deafening. Now, the Prime Minister was found guilty on 4 sections of the Conflict of Interest Act. Wow. The only reason the RCMP didn't charge him was because he is the Prime Minister. So there's one law for the Prime Minister and another law for all the rest of us. The RCMP said the Prime Minister was off the hook because he could have granted himself permission to accept a luxurious vacation gift worth $215,000. So on what exact date did the Prime Minister act with impunity and grant himself the power to break the law?
On what date?
Okay, are we ready for the answer? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, at a time when we're seeing in Canada incredible economic progress, in fact, 110% beyond where we were at pre-pandemic levels, when we see our GDP exceeding where we were pre-pandemic levels, and when we see the challenges that are faced by Canadians here in Canada and around the world, I would expect, leading question period, we would...
Order! We're on question number 4. 5, sorry. Do we want to continue? I'd really like to get on with the next few questions. I'm sure le Bloc québécois veut poser des questions dans quelques minutes.
I think the Bloc also wants to ask questions in a few minutes. The Honourable Government House Leader with his answer.
As I say, there are pressing and important matters that face this country and the world. The fact that they wish to play partisan politics and relitigate something from 5 years ago where the Prime Minister has acted appropriately and there was an Ethics Commissioner report, that's a choice they can make. But I would suggest that there are things more worthy of the time of this House.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was rebuked by the courts for appointing a unilingual Anglophone governor in New Brunswick. This is unconstitutional and above all shows a serious lack of judgment. There's only one bilingual province in Canada, but he still finds a way to appoint a unilingual Anglophone. This reminds us they also appointed a Governor General who does not speak French in an officially bilingual country like ours. When will this Prime Minister stop treating knowledge of French as a second-class skill and Francophones as second-class citizens? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Mr. Speaker, protecting and promoting French is an absolute priority for this government. We are showing this example, and we're encouraging people to the governor rather to take French classes because it's important to have dialogue with people in New Brunswick. And once again, with the modernization of the Official Languages Act, we are going to do our fair share to ensure that these improvements continue. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Quite funny, Mr. Speaker. That's the pot calling the kettle black. Last week, the Prime Minister tore up his shirt when he learned that CN had appointed a unilingual English-speaking board of directors. He said he was blown away, Mr. Speaker, and frustrated. But he himself personally appointed a unilingual Anglophone Lieutenant Governor in New Brunswick and personally appointed a non-French speaking Governor General in Canada. How can he then be surprised that CN doesn't care about French when the Prime Minister of Canada personally sends the message that French is not important? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We must protect our official languages. This situation is unacceptable.
The situation is unacceptable and has assured us that the matter will be resolved in the coming months during the next round board appointments.
We are going to work to strengthen our Official Languages Act.
And leaders, including their board of directors, to lead by example, Mr. Speaker.
Here. The Honourable Member for North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the government admitted its mistake with the GIS clawback and paid seniors back. But the one-time payment had a date restriction. Now, hundreds of seniors across this country are left out in the cold. I wrote to the minister last week about this urgent concern. The Liberals must fix this. It's leaving seniors poor in our country. When will this government stand up for seniors and start treating them all with dignity and respect?
The Honourable Minister of Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, we know just how challenging this pandemic has been for seniors. And Mr. Speaker, that's why from the very beginning we have been there to support them. On April 19th, we delivered a one-time payment for those affected seniors. Mr. Speaker, we also passed Bill C-12 that ensures that seniors, particularly working and low-income seniors, are never again impacted by any pandemic benefits that they take. We will continue to ensure that we support and deliver for seniors every step of the way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
We just learned Liberals are backing down on drug price reforms that would make life-saving medication more affordable and save us billions. This means Canadians will keep paying excessive costs for prescription drugs, among the highest in the world. Meanwhile, Liberals choose to protect the profits of large pharmaceutical companies. Liberals say no one should go without the medicine they need, but this policy choice makes that happen. Will this government get moving on public universal pharmacare so every Canadian can get the medicine they need and deserve?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to improving access to medicines, quality medicines for all Canadians, and Canada has among some of the highest patent medicine prices in the world, and these prices have negatively affected the ability of patients to access new medicines. On April 14th, we announced new amendments to the patented medicines regulations, which will give the PMRPB new tools to improve access to quality medicines while generating significant savings over the coming years for Canadians. These changes will also ensure the sustainability of our health care while supporting innovation and investment in the pharmaceutical sector. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul. Here.
Mr. Speaker, the Emergency Act is one of the most powerful laws in the land with an extremely high threshold needed to invoke it. And good thing, otherwise charter rights could be easily abused by governments. And that threshold is whether there is a national threat to public safety so serious that it cannot be addressed by any other law. And yet we well know that there are many existing laws that can address illegal blockades of critical infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, obviously. So maybe that's why the Liberals are hiding behind cabinet confidence and refusing to release documents justifying their decision to use these powers because they know the threshold hasn't been met. Isn't that right, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Preparedness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. When this country was faced with very real threats to critical infrastructure, our vital supply lines, and the incredible disruption that was taking place right out here in the streets of Ottawa, our government did what was necessary and required to deal with that situation through the invocation of the Act. Mr. Speaker, and today I want to advise this House that today the government is fulfilling its statutory requirements in appointing Justice Paul Rouleau as the Commissioner of the Public Inquiry into the circumstances of this act. Mr. Speaker, we will do what is required, and we will do it in the right way.
Kildona St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, that inquiry will be useless unless they waive cabinet confidence and allow Canadians to know the whole story. And really, the stakes couldn't be higher for Canadians, given that their charter rights are at risk with this unprecedented invocation of the Emergencies Act. And to be clear, for Canadians at home, the emergency powers allow government to freeze your bank account, seize your assets, suspend your charter rights, all without due process. And that is why there's an extraordinarily high threshold needed to invoke it, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Public Safety said today that he'll be upfront and transparent with Canadians. But if that's the case, why not waive cabinet confidence? Or are they hiding something, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Preparedness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to respond to the member's question, because I can assure her that under the Public Inquiries Act, the Commissioner of this inquiry will have very broad authorities, the ability to compel witnesses and to compel the production of documents, subject, as always, to lawful privileges of evidence that may exist, but he'll have the ability to call the evidence required, and we have great confidence in Justice Rouleau in this inquiry to get the information and the facts that this House and Canadians require.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, in the Emergencies Act, the government is still not meeting its duty of transparency. And he ran back in 2015 saying that he would be perfectly transparent, but this is exactly the opposite. He did talk about an inquiry today, but he did so at the last minute. And as parliamentarians, we need access to the documents that contain objective and factual information. What is the government hiding? So it's not presenting the documents for this inquiry to the House. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as the member will probably be aware, Section 63 of the Emergencies Act actually requires that the government within 60 days call a public inquiry. And we have fulfilled that requirement of the Act. We've also fulfilled the requirement by directing the public inquiry to conclude and report back to this House by February 20th, 2023. We have provided under the Inquiries Act with the Commissioner with all of the authorities that he requires to compel witnesses and to compel the delivery of documents to enable him to do this work. And he will have access to the documents he requires, even classified documents, subject to appropriate limits on privilege that may exist.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. I'm happy to see that the Minister read the law. That's the least he could do, but this brings back sad memories of the Winnipeg Laboratory. Remember that this government did everything in its power so that parliamentarians in the House of Commons would not get these documents. And you yourself, Mr. Speaker, were brought to court by this government as you were defending the rights of parliamentarians. It's really simple, my question. Why is the government refusing to make these documents public that are factual and not at all partisan in nature?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid that my friend opposite just presumes what Justice Rouleau will determine he requires in order to fulfill his requirements under the commission that he now holds to conduct a public inquiry. Mr. Speaker, I can assure you and this House, we will provide all of the support necessary to Justice Rouleau in the Congress of Inquiry and provide him with the resources and the tools and that he requires in order to fulfill his mandate.
The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the Prime Minister promised to run the most open and accountable government ever. We all remember his sunny ways. Scandal after scandal, crisis after crisis, he proved that it was just another broken promise. In the latest saga of the Prime Minister's dizzying mismanagement and misuse of the Act, the government is now refusing to hand over to the federal court basic information about what information led to the use of the Act under the guise of cabinet confidentiality. This is not how a real democracy works. What is the Prime Minister hiding this time from Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, let me assure the member opposite that we are complying with all of the court's direction with respect to the provision of evidence. However, the member is also probably aware that there are certain information, such as lawyer-client privilege, which is respected and well established in the law in this country. And so, Mr. Speaker, we will follow the law as it pertains to the conduct of that case and the public inquiry.
The Honourable Member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, recent court filings indicate the Liberals are refusing to reveal what information led the government to invoke the Emergencies Act in response to the Freedom Convoy. This government has yet to make a compelling argument that the invocation of the Act actually met the high, incredibly high national security threshold. With this unprecedented use of the Act, will this government finally be transparent and accountable to Canadians by sharing the information and documents relied upon for invoking the Emergencies Act?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd simply remind the member opposite that we complied very precisely with the requirements of the Emergencies Act. We stood up at the first opportunity a committee of parliamentarians to examine, as is required by the Act, the circumstances giving rise to the invocation of the Act, the measures that were invoked, and the steps that were taken as a result. We've also now complied with the Act and established a commission of inquiry under the Public Inquiries Act. And we made the decision to establish that under the Public Inquiries Act to ensure that the Commissioner would have all of the authorities he required to compel witnesses and to compel documents to do his job, Mr. Speaker. That is the essence of open and transparent.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe-de-Lille. Mr. Speaker, last week, CN chose a unilingual English board of directors. This reminds us of Air Canada and its CEO, who boasted that he only speaks English and spent his entire life in Quebec without speaking French. This also reminds us of what CN and Air Canada have in common, that in addition to their contempt for francophones, these are both companies under federal jurisdiction. Does the minister agree that there is a culture of hostility towards French in these federally regulated companies? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Mr. Speaker, both official languages are at the heart of our identity and culture. All Canadians can choose the official language of their choice if they're working for a federally regulated company. And what the CEO said was unacceptable, and we will solve this situation in the briefest of timelines. We need to give the Commissioner more ability to fulfill his duties. Mr. Speaker, in 1962, CN said it didn't have any francophones competent enough to be their vice president. 60 years later, it still cannot find someone competent enough for its board of directors. That is what French is in federal jurisdiction, and that is why Quebec wants to impose the French charter on these companies. But this government's bill prevents it from doing so and aims instead to extend the CN or Air Canada bilingualism model to all federal companies. Why not let Quebec defend French instead? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Protecting and promoting French is an absolute priority for this government and also for myself as Minister of Official Languages. We're moving forward with an ambitious bill with greater teeth that will help all Canadians receive essential services. And I hope my colleague will support us in this modernization of the Act and adopt this bill as quickly as possible, because it will make a real difference in the lives of Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. CN has a unilingual English board, and also Air Canada has a unilingual CEO. The Prime Minister appoints a Governor-General that doesn't speak French. The Prime Minister thought about taking francophones in BC to court last month because they're demanding services in French. This government is unable to protect French. Why is it not imposing a French charter? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc is trying to make this a partisan issue. I'd like to use a term I don't like to use, Mr. Speaker, but the word quarreling. What the CN did is completely unacceptable, and there is no one here thinks that it's a good thing to have a unilingual board. And the Bloc knows this. We've said it publicly, and the Prime Minister has as well. We're going to correct the situation, but the Bloc is trying to do petty politics, and that's unacceptable. This government is standing up for Francophones and standing up for Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, this morning, the Governor of the Bank of Canada was very clear. Inflation is no longer transitory. In fact, Mr. Macklem said, quote, Team Transitory has been disbanded. For months, this government has claimed that inflation was a passing global phenomenon, nothing to see, and continued to borrow and spend all the way to skyrocketing inflation of 6.7%. Why has the minister allowed her spending to fuel an affordability crisis that has left millions of Canadians behind?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy, but the truth is that Canada is very well placed to weather the storms caused by COVID and by Vladimir Putin. According to the IMF, we will have the fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next year.
Bravo.
We have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, and we have recovered 115% of the jobs lost to COVID compared to just 93% in the U.S. Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, the governor also announced that because of inflation, every single Canadian pays $2,000 more a year. He said Canadians should expect more interest rate increases, leaving millions of Canadians paying more on their mortgages and on their loans. And when the governor was asked what this government should do to preserve Canada's fiscal position, you know what he said? Don't spend too much. Is the minister listening?
No.
Will she finally control her spending? And why has she failed to address Canada's affordability crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, let me remind the members opposite that S&P and Moody's have reaffirmed Canada's AAA credit rating and that we have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. And when it comes to making life more affordable for Canadians, our budget has done so much. We're doubling the support provided through the first-time homebuyers tax credit. We're introducing a multi-generational home renovation tax credit. And we're providing a $500 payment to those facing housing affordability challenges.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have had 6 years to fix the housing market. Instead, under their policies, house prices have doubled under their watch. So let's go back and take a look at some of their programs. The first-time homebuyers program failed. Shared equity mortgage program failed. Housing co-investment fund failed. With new programs announced in the budget, Canadians are asking, how will this government fail this time?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for the question. Budget 2022 actually does 4 things. We're seeking to double the supply of new housing in the next decade by introducing programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund. We are helping first-time home buyers with a tax-free savings account of up to $40,000, doubling the first-time home buyer tax credit, extending the first-time home buyer incentive. In addition to that, we're tackling speculation by banning foreign ownership of Canadian residential real estate. And Mr. Speaker, we're building more affordable housing by investing in co-op housing, extending the first-time home buyer incentive, and extending the tax-free home buyer savings account.
I got a lot of back. Member for South Shore St. Margaret's. I'm hearing him way over here, so I'm trying to keep him down here. The Honourable
Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, The climate crisis is worsening. Our ecosystems are threatened. Our bodies of water, our green spaces, and biodiversity are threatened as well. A global movement for the right to nature is addressing this crisis of massive extinction of living species. It's time for a paradigm shift, and that's why the NDP is proposing a legal status for the St. Lawrence River. Will the Liberals support our proposal to give a legal status to the St. Lawrence River and its watersheds to protect it? The Honourable Minister.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to thank the Honourable Member for his question. Last week we met with Nature Conservancy Canada, and we put in place an excellent project. The sound quality is poor for the interpreter. Of our lands and our oceans by 2030, and an international objective with a view to protect biodiversity and for all Canadians.
For Vancouver East.
The minister said he wouldn't implement visa-free travel for people fleeing Putin's war because it would take 14 to 16 weeks, even though Ireland managed to do it within a few days. To no one's surprise, there's now a backlog of over 100,000 Ukrainians waiting for visa approval, mostly women, children, and seniors. And when they arrive, they'll need supports immediately. That means getting landed status. The government needs to stop hiding behind layers of bureaucracy. When will the minister implement visa-free travel and provide Ukrainians with status within 90 days of arrival?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for her question. I would point out, though, our mission at the outset of this effort was to create the fastest possible pathway for Ukrainians to get to Canada where they could benefit from the safe haven our country can offer. I'm pleased to share that as of last week, more than 56,000 Ukrainians had already been approved to come to Canada in the first few weeks that we were making approvals. This is something Canadians can be proud of, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to do whatever we can, not just to get Ukrainians here, but to support them once they arrive. It's the right thing to do, and I'm so pleased to have the support of Canadians in every community right across this country.
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, over the last 2 years, our government has consistently heard from employers regarding their challenges with the skills and labor shortages. That has affected not just their businesses, but also Canada's economic growth and recovery. In my riding of Brampton Centre, I also have a thriving population of international graduates whose temporary status is expiring due to processing challenges caused by the pandemic. They are eager to find a pathway to remain and work in Canada. What is the government doing to allow more of these talented workers to remain in Canada so they can contribute to Canada's economy?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I point out that the member who posed the question is an absolute champion for international students, and I thank him for his advocacy on this important file. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to share that last week I had the opportunity to make an announcement in St. John, New Brunswick, that the federal government would be extending open work permits to those who are facing soon-to-be expired or recently expired postgraduate work permits. In addition, Mr. Speaker, because of the investments we have made to increase processing at IRCC, we have now cut the inventory of cases in the high-skilled express entry categories more than in half, and we're going to be able to resume the express entry draws this July to make sure more people can come and make a difference to our economy in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian housing prices have surged over the last 2 years. The average cost of a home in the GTA rose more than 50%. The government blames the lack of supply for the price hike and pledged to double the pace of home building over the next decade. But that plan seems to be missing from the budget. We won't see a single additional house built this year. Not one. Canadians aren't giving up on their dream of home ownership, so why is the minister giving up on them?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I would invite the Honourable Member to read the entire budget, because the budget actually doubles down on so much more housing supply in Canada. 6,000 more housing, co-op housing, new housing.
Order. I'll let the minister restart his answer. The Honourable Minister of Housing.
The reason, Mr. Speaker, that they can't handle my answers is because we call them out on their plan.
All right. The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Budget contains a lot of measures to build more housing supply. 100,000 new homes through the Housing Accelerator Fund. 6,000 more homes through new co-op buildings. 6,000 more homes through the Rapid Housing Initiative. 20,000 more homes through the National Housing Co-Investment Fund. That is the supply we're talking about.
Honourable Member, Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, the housing minister is failing. Conservatives warned the Liberals' strategy for housing would do nothing to help housing prices, and prices doubled. We warned 30-year high inflation would trigger interest rate hikes, and we see the biggest rate increase in 20 years. We're now warning him that families are struggling to just keep their homes. Will the minister admit his failure and tell us how many Canadians will lose their homes?
No.
Honourable Minister.
Budget 2022 housing measures and investments deal with precisely what the Honourable Member is talking about. Making sure that we double the housing supply in this country. Canada has the fastest growth of population in the G7, but our housing supply has not kept up to that. And so we're implementing the Housing Accelerator Fund to build 100,000 new homes. We're helping first-time home buyers to establish programs like the tax-free savings account to put in $40,000 in a tax-free savings account. We're building more affordable housing, and we're tackling speculation. The party opposite failed Canadians in government, and they're failing them on housing now.
You're the failure.
All right, the Honourable Member for Regina, Wisconsin.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government has tried to deny that they are planning to impose a tax on home equity. But the Canadian Taxpayers Federation has obtained documents proving that this government recently provided an additional $200,000 in research funding to Generation Squeeze, the aptly named group trying to squeeze Canadians out of their hard-earned home equity. Will the minister stop hiding and come clean and admit that they are trying to make a tax grab out of Canadians' hard-earned home equity?
Here, here. Great question. The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I take this opportunity to unequivocally state that our government is not considering charging capital gains tax on primary residences. Any consideration, any suggestion otherwise is false. And the party opposite has repeated this misinformation and disinformation in this House and in the media. And instead of engaging in disinformation, we're engaged in building more affordable homes and making more first-time home buyers achieve their dream of home ownership, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Over the past 6 weeks, we've learned that Canadian Transportation Agency determined that Flair Airlines does not meet Canadian ownership requirements. Despite that, the government has doled out not one, but 2 grants to Flair totaling $11.3 million. So if Flair is not Canadian, the airline's operating license would be suspended and consumers would be left with the tab. So does the government usually provide grants to airlines that don't meet operating requirements, or will we see the minister get those tax dollars back?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I am aware of the situation that my honourable colleague is talking about. I know Flair has made an application to Transport Canada, and that application is being reviewed. However, I have a question to my colleague. Why is she against providing support to Canadian workers? Why is she against providing support to Canadian passengers?
Order. Order. Questions, answers, comments. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague needs to be honest with Canadians. Is she against subsidies for Canadian workers? Is she against providing support during the height of COVID to Canadian workers? She needs to tell Canadians where she stands on this issue.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, after 2 months, the government has an excellent solution to help Ukraine refugees. Aeroplan points, not airlift, not chartered flights to get them out. No, we'll be able to donate our Aeroplan points. So a mother with 3 children, instead of paying $4,000 for a plane ticket, she'll only have to pay $3,700 because Dave from Regina decided to donate his points. But only Aeroplan points. Air miles aren't accepted. Mr. Speaker, does the minister also accept Canadian Tire money? Seriously, when is he going to charter flights to get those families out? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
I appreciate the sense of humor my colleague always brings to the floor of the House of Commons, and I thank him for his advocacy for chartered flights, which we have announced, by the way, Mr. Speaker. But it is no laughing matter that we were able to reach a partnership with Air Canada, the Shapiro Foundation, and other Canadians who would like to donate not just Aeroplan points, but other different kinds of loyalty points or cash, because the measures that we're putting in place are going to make sure at least 10,000 Ukrainians are going to make it safely to Canada. That's something we could be proud of. It's something that I hope the Bloc would support.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, I also have a pile of Subway coupons if he wants, 2 for 1. Mr. Speaker, the minister is playing us for fools. 2 weeks ago, there were already 140,000 refugee claims from UK. It's going to take more than Aeroplan points to get those people out. It's going to take chartered flights in an operation that's worthy of a G7 country that is home to the world's second largest UK diaspora. That's enough, Mr. Speaker. How many weeks will the refugees still have to wait before the minister provides a real airlift? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the honourable member is busy collecting Subway coupons, writing jokes at the table, we're busy bringing Ukrainians to Canada. There are 16,000 Ukrainians who made it to Canada already this year. In the first few weeks since we introduced a new program, almost 60,000 more have been approved. We are starting to see flights come. We've set up reception at the airports in Toronto, in Edmonton, in Vancouver, Quebec, in Montreal. We are working with settlement agencies, more than 550 organizations right across Canada. Every step of the way, Mr. Speaker, we advance new measures to get people here. This latest measure, which he is poking fun of, will see at least 10,000 people get here cost-free. That's the right thing, and he should be proud of it.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Canadian farmers are drowning. Its costs on feed, fuel, and fertilizer skyrocket. But instead of resolving the problems that their own bad policies actually caused, the Liberal government is doubling down. They've increased the carbon tax. They're telling farmers that they won't process their income tax return, and they've hiked fertilizer prices. For weeks, we've been asking the Liberals, will you exempt the 35% tariff on fertilizer purchased from Russia before March 2nd? Yes. No answer. In a time of a global food crisis, helping Canadian farmers seems like the right decision. Why won't the Liberals make it?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
And assure my colleague that we're working closely with the industry. We want to make sure that they can access all the inputs they need to have a good season, because we know we have a responsibility to contribute to food security in the world, not only in Canada but in the world, and we will do so, Mr. Speaker. We are here to support our farmers, and we have improved the advance payment program to do so. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Cypress Hills Glasslands.
Mr. Speaker, farmers need the certainty of knowing what the government is doing, especially since they have started their spring seeding. First, the Liberals hinted at restricting fertilizer use. Now they're implementing a 35% retroactive tariff on fertilizer imports from Russia. We are living in a disrupted world for food supply and trade, and there's no plan offering Canadian farmers stability. Mr. Speaker, we're close to a global food crisis, and this minister is forcing farmers to grow less and taxing them out of existence. Will the minister remove the tariff on fertilizer purchased before March 2nd?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'd like to reassure my colleagues that we are working very close with all agricultural industry sectors. Recently, we agreed to improve the advance payments program so that they have the equity required to ensure a good season. And if my colleague wants to help us to ensure that our farmers can receive credits for pollution, then he would have to vote for C8 as quickly as possible. Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, in response to my question concerning customs tariffs on fertilizer from Russia, the minister said that she and her government would continue to allow ships to enter Canada. She also pointed out that she had made changes to the advance payments program which all that does is increase the debt of farmers because of these tariffs. So here's my real question. Once again, will the minister suspend the 35% tariffs on these orders before March 2nd? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, I'd like to ensure my colleague that we are working very closely with the agricultural industry to ensure that they have the resources required to ensure a good season here in Canada and also to ensure food security worldwide. We've improved the advance payments program, and I hope that my colleagues across the way will vote for C8 very quickly to ensure that our producers can receive their tax credits. The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have a question concerning farmers. For many of them, seeding season is soon going to begin, but unfortunately, for many of them, this period represents major financial stress, Mr. Speaker, because they have to make advance payments on many inputs before they even begin their year, and that includes seeds, fertilizer, and fuel. And we know that this year, in particular, inputs have seen major price hikes. So can the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food tell this House what initiatives have been taken to ensure that this year's seeding season succeeds? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Pontiac because she is extremely committed to our farmers. And as she so clearly said, the seeding season is important for our farmers, and they're facing major financial stress. And that's why we announced improvements to the advance payments program so that producers have more cash flow to ensure a good farm season and contribute to feeding Canadians. Thank you.
Caribou Prince George.
500 days. It's been 500 days since our Conservative motion to bring 988 to Canada unanimously passed in this House. In those 500 days, an estimated 5,500 Canadians have died by suicide. A further 137,000 have attempted suicide. Wow. The Minister of Mental Health doesn't know the existing National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, but she knows 988. And she knows that 988 will save lives. Yet, for 500 days, this minister has had the will of the House and the support of municipalities, the support of telecoms and mental health organizations, and she's had the power to bring 988 to Canada, yet she's failed to do so. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his ongoing advocacy, and our hearts are with the families of all of those people that we have lost to suicide. As you know, that we have asked the CRTC to be expedient in getting this work done, including persons with disabilities. It means that we are working to leverage the work that the United States has been doing on this since 2018. This is a complicated issue, and we want to make sure that when people call, they are connected to the most appropriate care in the most appropriate manner. We will get this done together, and we this morning announced $3.7 million to the distress centers across this country so that we will have a coordinated way to make sure we prevented those lives.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Hey. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, the Liberals gave Medicago $173 million taxpayers' dollars to build a Canadian vaccine manufacturing plant. Now we've learned tobacco company Philip Morris owns a major stake in Medicago, and that the World Health Organization has denied approval for the emergency use of the Covifenz vaccine outside of Canada. Can the minister please explain this failure of due diligence and why he wasted $173 million on a vaccine we can't even donate?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question. I'd like to take the opportunity to recast a bit history, Mr. Speaker. It seems that the member has lost a bit the passage of time. When the World Health Organization declared a pandemic in March 2020, we made sure as a government that we would invest in all the families of vaccines to protect the health and safety of Canadians. Plant protein vaccine, Mr. Speaker, work and have been recommended by our expert. Mr. Speaker, the investment we did is to protect the health and safety of Canadians. We will find a solution and we'll continue to work for Canadians across this nation.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What's lost in time is any answers from this government. Recent decisions by the government to take away from fishery license holders on the east and west coast without compensation their quota counter to the long-standing policy of willing buyer, willing seller. DFO sources tell me that the minister is about to expropriate 15% of lobster traps from license holders without compensation to give to First Nations. This would be devastating for these fishermen. Will the minister state in this House categorically that this government will not expropriate from lobster fishermen?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, and as we all understand, and fairly so, First Nations have a Supreme Court affirmed treaty right to fish for a moderate livelihood, and our government has never stopped working to implement that right. We're doing so in consultation with any other fish harvesters who may be impacted. We are working very hard to have a willing buyer, willing seller process so that those transactions can be appropriate for everyone. This decision has not been made, and I will continue working on a fair outcome for all.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. High-speed internet is essential to today's economy and our society. It's a necessity for any household for work, schools, and entertainment. Can the minister update the House on the work being done to connect more British Columbian rural households?
Honourable Minister of Rural Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague and friend for that great question, because since 2015, our government has invested and committed $7.2 billion to connect every Canadian from coast to coast to coast to affordable, reliable, high-speed internet. And just recently, we announced $5 million to connect over 3,300 homes in British Columbia. So what that's doing, great work for folks in rural BC, but it's also making us reach our goals of 98% of Canada connected by 2026 and 30% by 2030. We have a plan to connect Canadians, Mr. Speaker, and it's working. Thank you.
The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have left people with disabilities behind again. They chose to leave out the long-promised income supports in their Budget 2022, and they have yet to act on their commitments from Budget 2021. For too long, people with disabilities feel abandoned. They deserve to live with dignity and get the help they need. On the disability tax credit, this government must remove all barriers, including the 14-hour per week requirement, preventing people who need it from qualifying. When will the Liberals modernize the disability tax credit and stop leaving people with disabilities behind?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure my colleague that I'm working very hard to reduce poverty levels of working-age Canadians with disabilities. I am very confident that we will move forward with the Canada Disability legislation, and a key pillar of our Disability Inclusion Action Plan is, in fact, to reform, modernize, and dignify the eligibility processes for Government of Canada disability benefits and supports, including the disability tax credit. We're working on it, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in recent weeks, over 100 MPs from all parties have shared their support for the immediate reintroduction of the Canada Disability Benefit. With the backing of MPs from the governing party, this bill would enjoy the support of this House, while 43 senators in the other place have already publicly declared their support as well. Consultations can and should continue after the bill is introduced, so this shouldn't be used as a reason to further delay. Can the minister share when this much-needed legislation will be reintroduced?
The honourable minister.
The next couple of weeks.
Encouraged by my honourable colleagues' enthusiasm for tabling the Canada Disability legislation, its implementation remains a top priority for me. With Budget 2021, we actually invested $11.9 million to consult the disability community on eligibility, and that work will directly inform this benefit. We're also working with provinces and territories to ensure the CDB will increase the monthly income of Canadians with disabilities, will not impact access to other services and programs, and ensure that everyone will be better off. Our government will reintroduce this legislation and ensure that persons with disabilities have the financial security they deserve.
Before we move on, I just wanted to bring attention in the exchange between the Minister of Transport and the member for Thornhill. The minister sort of questioned the honesty of the member. That's unparliamentary, and I really would hope that we don't use that kind of phrasing in the future. Points of order. Point d'ordre.
The honourable member for Rosemont Petite Patrie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There has been consultations amongst the parties, and I think you will see unanimous consent for the following motion: that the House recognize that Guy Lafleur, Officer of the Order of Canada, Knight of the National Order of Quebec, and member of the Sports Hall of Fame and Temple of Fame, a member of the National Hockey League, among others, that the House recognizes that the Quebec One Nation and the people across the rest of Canada are profoundly touched by the loss of this gentleman who marked his era and a number of generations through his sports prowess as an ambassador of the Canadians for a national sport in his hometown of Thurso, and his accessible and welcoming personality, that the House celebrate his brilliant career marked by 17 seasons in the National Hockey League, also with the New York Rangers, as well as other places. He had 6 consecutive seasons, and the House offer its condolences to his family and loved ones, and all the members of the Montreal Canadiens family. Thank you. All those opposed to the motion being proposed by the honourable member will say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will say nay.
Adopté.
Carried.
Suite aux discussions.
Following discussions
amongst representatives of all parties of the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in honor of Guy Lafleur. I now invite honourable members to please rise. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Daily routine, affaire courant of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36(8)A, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 19 petitions. These returns will be tabled in an electronic format.
They are tabled. Introduction of government bills.
Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees. The honourable member for.
I want to go say Winnipeg Centre. Winnipeg.
Close, Mr. Speaker. Winnipeg South Centre.
See, this is what happens when you try to guess. Winnipeg South Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour to present in both official languages the third report of the Standing Committee